Hi everyone, this is Kate. Today I'm going to be drawing a elf woman on a mountainside. Here you can see I'm just starting out my sketch. I create the basic shapes that make up the body, and then I start adding the detail like the sword and the hair and the face and the outfit. You can see I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my background quite yet. I originally thought of like a canyon overlooking a river, and then decided against it, and I found a reference photo with a really cool mountain and decided to try that out because I'm not as used to drawing landscapes. So you can see here I'm just kind of trying to refine my sketch, figure out what I want this piece to look like, and then I'm starting to add just my background and stuff, and I'm laying out the basic shapes that I want. You can see that I also decided not to do line work with this piece. I tend to go really back and forth on whether or not I want to do line work. Generally the answer is no, because I just really hate it. It bores me to death. So I was just kind of experimenting here. I've never really tried to do a piece of this caliber. Usually my art pieces take me about 2 or 3 hours. This one took me over 8 hours to complete, which is just totally weird and off the wall for me. And here you can see I'm kind of laying out my colors, figuring out the color scheme. I did use a color scheme on Procreate. However, whenever I started this art piece, I didn't know if I wanted to record it or not, so the first chunk of this video is just Procreate's automatic recording, which is why it's so pixelated. So here I'm just kind of laying out my colors, laying out basic shadows and highlights. I already did do her face here, but you'll see later on in the video that I just really wasn't happy with her face. I didn't think that it went with the look that I'm trying to achieve in my art. My goal at some point in the future is to eventually be able to do art for like Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. My husband is really into Magic the Gathering, and I'm really into the artwork, so I want to be able to do that kind of stuff. Obviously that's not where I'm at yet, but this is kind of the piece where I decided I'm going to start really working towards that. So now you can see that this is actually just the screen recording off of my iPad instead of the Procreate automatic recording. I really wanted to show exactly what I'm doing here. I have a ton of layers, still messing around with her face that I just couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. So I actually went in, watched a bunch of YouTube videos on how to do faces and different methods, because I usually use the Loomis method, but that just wasn't getting me on this piece specifically where I wanted to be. You can see I'm trying to add details to every aspect of the painting. I ended up forgetting to do her belts, but at this point I've worked on the painting for so long that I don't really want to go back and do the belts. So anyway, I definitely experimented a lot with color and detail here. I don't usually go into this much detail on my pieces. I don't usually go in and, put detail on every lace of the pants or every piece of the sword or something like that. I also put a lot of work into her armor. And I did something in this piece that I've never done before, which was I used the selection tool, which earlier on in the video you can see it a lot more obviously that I'm using it whenever I'm doing like the mountains and stuff. So I used the selection tool a lot to try to lay out my shapes and such. And you can see here I actually used the selection tool to fix that. So here's where I ended up going, and I completely erased what I had done of her face and did a new sketch of a new face using these new methods that I researched, and just kind of sat and worked on that for kind of a while. I really wanted it to have like that fantasy RPG type vibe, you know, that splash art type look to it. So I'm just kind of working on her face. I wanted her to look a lot more fierce, a lot more serious, like something you would see in Magic versus something that you would see in like League of Legends, just style-wise. So here I'm adding in the details on her face, and I'm trying to get more into the habit of thinking of the face as a bunch of 3D shapes, a bunch of planes, instead of just, you know, here's the nose, here's the eyes, here's the mouth. And it's really weird because I grew up doing art and being told that I'm good at art, and I drew a lot of anime characters, as I'm sure a bunch of people did, and I didn't really want to do the basics, so I just kind of skipped those and realized about 2 years ago that was actually a really bad idea. So, you know, here you can see that I'm actually going in and doing these basics. I've been learning a lot of color theory lately. I've been working a lot more on anatomy and different methods of laying out the face and thinking of people as 3D objects instead of, like I said, instead of just like a series of random pieces put together. And then I enjoy doing lighting. Here you can see I'm doing kind of like a sunrise look over the edge. I also experimented with doing like the bright orange on her ears, since you would be able to see some of the light through her ears. And then I like doing the dark purple shadows. These are things that I'm used to doing, and I think it was a pretty decent finishing touch on the piece overall. And you can see that I'm going to go in and add my shadows. I always do this purple to make a nice rich shadow, and then I set it to multiply, usually after I'm done kind of laying it all out, and I really do it like really scribbly and stuff. I don't really put a ton of thought and precision into this. But yeah, so for my first serious piece, I think that I have a good idea of what I need to work on for sure, and I've also got a good idea of where I'm at, so I'm pretty excited to see what I come up with next. I guess if you want to follow my journey, just like and subscribe, and then turn on the notifications so that you'll be let know whenever I have a video coming.